Hey investors, we are going to analyze the market of Columbus, Ohio. We're going to look at both the market and a rental property to see if it's a good real estate investment. If this is your first time back to the channel, I'm Dave Hathaway. We discuss real estate investing and building wealth. This is part of our Deal Day series. We look at a new property in a new market each week to determine if we can't find stellar market opportunities and properties. So this week, we're going to look at the address 399 Wyandotte Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43202. Before we look at the actual property, we are going to dive deep into the market economic drivers. So for Columbus, the economic drivers are number one is education and research, not surprising with Ohio State University being there. The second economic driver is healthcare, and the last is business services with finances and with financial institutions and insurance. The major Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered there are Nationwide Mutual Insurance and Big Lots. Columbus also has an international airport in John Glenn Columbus International Airport. It's right downtown. In addition, it has some major sports teams, including the NHL Columbus Blue Jackets, the MLS Columbus Crew, and a AAA baseball team, the Columbus Clippers. The other cool things that you can take away from this video is that Columbus is the birthplace of the Oreo cookie. And if you're unfamiliar with what a Buckeye is, it's Ohio State tree. So looking at the actual stats of the market, Columbus has a population of 909,000 people, which was actually kind of surprising for a Midwest town to me. And it has increased 0.38%, which is also surprising for a Midwest city. And the job growth, as you can see, it's had stellar growth over the past 100 years. In the last 20, it's kind of flattened off, but it's still growing a little bit, which is awesome. The job growth in Columbus, it's gained about 9,800 jobs this year, which is slow, but it is growing at 0.9%. Unemployment this year is 3.8%, which is close to the national average. Average salaries there in Columbus is $64,707 per year, according to ZipRecruiter. And that's actually surprisingly high. And I bet you that's due to their economic sectors. The median sales price is $273,000, which is great. It's affordable. It's under the national average. So median rents are about $1,495, which is awesome, still affordable. And the price to rent ratio in Columbus is 14.83. And if you don't know, if it's under 15, you usually have the ability to cash flow better in those markets. So Columbus is firing on all cylinders with its overall market. I'm going to give it a huge thumbs up. Let's move on to the Google Street Test. So if you look at the Google Street Test, and this is just looking at Google Street View pictures all around the subject property, these are just nice single family houses. The only thing that I do notice is that some of them are a bit overgrown with their landscape. And this is probably because I chose a property that's pretty close to Ohio State University. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. But if you have multiple students living in a house, they're probably not taking care of the landscape like a normal homeowner would. So, but everything else is great. No trash, clean streets, looks like a neighborhood that most anybody would like to live in. Now moving on to the listing details of the property. This property is listed for $250,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single family. It has 1,658 square feet. It's an oldie. It was built in 1900. In my rehab suggestions, when you start to look at the different pictures of a listing, on the outside, it looks a little bit worn. I'd definitely touch up the outside. I'd restain the hardwood floors on the inside. The kitchen cabinets look a bit rough, and I'd repaint the kitchen cabinets or touch them up at the very least and maybe put a coat of polyurethane on. definitely have to replace the appliances, and I'd go back with stainless steel like we always do. It is nice that they do have granite countertops in this property, so that's awesome. You get to keep those. And there's a decent amount of drywall work around the property, so you can tell that this one does have some deferred maintenance. Somebody hasn't been keeping up with it with the handyman. There's either a leaky roof, so the roof might need a little bit of work. There might be some leaky pipes, or they could just be old leaks that they never actually repaired. The drywall, they repaired maybe the leak, but didn't repair the drywall. So just things that we know there's going to be deferred maintenance. And then if you go into the basement, you can tell that there's some water on the floor and there might be an issue with the main sewer line. You can just tell that this landlord, this property owner is definitely probably tired of dealing with maintenance requests. You can also tell with the crazy bunk beds in the property. They did a weird stack where they had 3 bunk beds stacked on top of each other on a freight rack. It's kind of crazy. And it looks like they were having 8 people live in this property. So this property has been used and abused for a while. So you might be able to get a discount on this property. And if I were putting an offer, I'd definitely go lower than asking price on this one. The rehab budget for this property is going to be $25,000. It could probably edge up a bit from there depending on what you find out, but that's $15 a square foot. And the reason that I chose a property right next to Ohio State University is I like properties that give you options. So not only does this one have 4 bedrooms and then it has this huge loft area upstairs, you can tell that you can probably just continue renting it to students. Students live there. It's really close to Ohio State University, but if you fix it up nicely, you can rent it to professors, to somebody that works downtown in a higher salary job. So it gives you just different options to create revenue streams if you choose to do that. So if you don't want to deal with students, you don't have to do that. You rent to a professor, you rent to somebody else that has a good salary. But it does give you another option to generate more revenue with a little bit more work in the property. And it's better to have those options than to not have them at all. Let's move on to the cash flow analyzer. When I look around, I think this property could probably rent for $2,200 a month. If you rent out to students, I bet you can get a lot more. Looking at the front wall by the door, and this just shows you how much information you can pick up from listing photos. It looks like they have 8 different filing things on the wall right next to that front door. So I bet you they're renting this out to 8 different students. But I conservatively think you can rent it out for $2,200 if you make it nice again. And then comps in the neighborhood, you're probably somewhere around $300,000. It does look like it's softened up a little bit in there, but I'd say $300,000 if the property looks nice. Property taxes were actually slightly surprising at $3,064. Slightly surprising to the upside. I was thinking they were going to be cheaper just being in Ohio. So when you go down to the bottom of the cash flow analyzer, looks like if you purchase this one with all cash, you make about $1,366.67 or 5.75% cash on cash return. Definitely not the best cash on cash return. You can put your money somewhere else. If you did a 30-year fixed loan at 7%, that cash on cash return turns into a negative cash on cash return. So I just say you get a 0% return if you're doing a 30-year fixed. And that stinks because you do have to put in your down payment. So overall, maybe you get some appreciation because this has so many options like we talked about. Student rental, renting out to somebody at the university, renting out to somebody that works downtown at one of those financial services or insurance companies. So it's got a lot of options, so you might see low appreciation, but this one is definitely not a flip, and maybe it's a long-term rental. But if you've watched my channel before, you know that I don't recommend out to anybody to purchase investment property that does not cash flow, as usually you're going to run into maintenance calls, you're going to run into stuff, so you're going to end up paying out of pocket, and that's going to get super frustrating as a landlord. You're not going to see your wealth grow as much. So I'm going to give the property a thumbs down on this one. And even if you got it for 20K under, I still don't think it's going to really cash flow that much for you. So again, market thumbs up, property thumbs down on this one. But I do think if you're patient, you're looking for off-market deals, I think you can probably find a great one in this market. I think you can find a winner. So if you guys watch this to the end, I just want to say thank you. Give the channel a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.